Good morning, class. Today we are going to continue the chapter How do organisms reproduce? This is part 3. Here, let me open the PPT. Okay, last class we have learned about asexual reproduction. Those are budding, regeneration, fragmentation. I'm just giving a small recap. Spore formation in fungi, vegetative propagation in plants, and sexual reproduction. And the two modes of cell division, that is mitosis and meiosis. Mitosis takes place in body cells and meiosis takes place in sex cells. Okay, so last class we have learned about, in part 2 we have learned about male reproductive system and female reproductive system, few contraceptive methods, about sterilization we have learned, right? So in today's class we are going to learn about reproduction in plants. Last class we have learned about reproduction in humans. In today's class we are going to learn reproduction in plants. So plants are, I'll just give a small introduction about plants. Plants are classified into 5 types. Those are thallophytes, bryophytes, pteridophytes, angiosperms, and gymnosperms. Thallophytes in the sense the organisms, the plant which has only a plant body. Here the plant body is not divided into proper shoot, root, or any other parts. Example, algae. Bryophytes are the plants which lives both in land as well as water. Example, mosses. Next, pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are without any body. Here the body is not divided into any specialized body parts. Only a plant you can see, plant body you can see in pteridophytes. What about gymnosperms? Gymnosperms, in the sense, these are the organisms or species, a special species in plants, which produce seeds, but these seeds are not enclosed within fruits. Okay, and they do not produce any flowers too. Flowers are absent and seeds are present. Seeds are naked. Seeds are naked. They are not present within fruits. And finally, angiosperms. Angiosperms are the plants in which they possess flowers. They are also called flowering plants. And here, the seeds are present within fruits. Seeds are enclosed within fruits. So, now we are going to learn about angiosperms. So, sexual reproduction that takes place in plants. Sexual reproduction in flowering plants, that is angiosperms. Sexual reproduction in plants happens through flowers. Flowers are the reproductive parts. So, in flower, the flower parts are classified into 2 types: essential wholes and non-essential wholes. Essential parts are non-essential parts of a flower. Let us see what are those. Essential wholes are parts, wholes in the sense a layer. So, what are essential parts in a plant? As the name indicates, which is essential for reproduction. The parts of a flower which is required for reproduction. Essential wholes of the flower such as the andrecium and gynoecium helps in the sexual reproduction of a plant. Andrecium is a male part, gynoecium is a female part. So these 2 parts are present in flower. They are also called essential wholes or essential parts of a flower. Why? Because these 2 are directly involved in sexual reproduction. Next, non-essential parts of a flower. These are other parts of a flower which are not directly involved in sexual reproduction, but they help indirectly. Let us see what are those. The typical structure of a flower contains essential wholes and non-essential wholes. Sepals and petals are called non-essential wholes. Sepals in the sense small green-like structures. Petals, as you know. Sepals are also called calyx. Petals are also called corolla. They do not directly take part in reproduction. Sepals protect the, what is the function of sepal then? Green leaf-like structures are called sepals. What is its function? Though it is not participates in sexual reproduction, but sepals protects the inner delicate hole during bud condition. You might have seen in flowers, the bud state, when it is in bud state, the bud is covered with a leaf. So it just gives protection to the bud. Which one? Sepals. And also perform photosynthesis if they are green in color. Of course, sepals are green in color. They perform photosynthesis. Sepals protect the inner delicate hole during bud formation. This I told you already. Then what are the functions of petals? Petals are colored. Why they should be colored? Because to attract insects. Why insects are required? Insect helps in pollination. It carries the anthers, male parts, anthers towards the stigma, female part. So when it carries anthers towards the stigma, anthers releases, when it carries pollen grains, sorry, it's not anthers, pollen grains. Anther is one of the part of a male which produces pollen grain. So insects carry pollen grain from the anthers to the stigma of a female part of the same flower or different flower. Not same flower exactly. Always insects helps in cross pollination. So different flower. When it sucks nectar in another plant, it carries automatically the pollen grains from one plant to another plant. Here, cross pollination happens. So, petals are required to attract insects. That is why they are colored. Essential holes of a flower. Andrecium and gynoecium are called essential or reproductive holes of a flower. Andrecium produces, and as I told you, andrecium is a male part. I will show you the picture. Yeah, see. See, where is andrecium? See, this is andrecium. Actually, a singular form is stamen. See, this is one of the stamen, second stamen, third stamen, fourth stamen. All stamens together called andrecium. Then what is gynoecium? Gynoecium, exactly at the center you see. This is gynoecium. It is also called pistil. So pistil may be either single or many. So all pistils together called carpel, and the scientific term or technical term is gynoecium. Andrecium is a male part, gynoecium is a female part. Andrecium possesses anther and filament. Gynoecium possesses stigma, style, and this is ovary. See, essential holes of a flower. Andrecium and gynoecium are called essential or reproductive holes of a flower. Andrecium produces pollen grain. What are pollen grains? These are male gametes. And gynoecium produces ovules, which are female gametes. Bisexual flower. What is mean by bisexual flower? Bi in the sense two, sexual in the sense sexes. So the flower which contains both the sexes, that is male and female parts, are called bisexual flowers. Here bisexual flowers contain both the wholes, while unisexual flowers contain either of them. Unisexual flowers contain either andrecium or gynoecium, but not the both. But bisexual flowers contain both andrecium as well as gynoecium. Next, each individual member of andrecium is called stamen. Then what is the difference between stamen and andrecium? Stamen is a singular form. The individual reproductive part of a flower or male part is nothing but stamen. A group of stamens together called andrecium, and stamen consists of anther and filament. Stamen is divided into two parts. I will show you the picture. See, this is stamen. Here it divided into two parts. This is anther and this is filament. Next, anther produces haploid pollen grains. What is the function of anther? To produce pollen grain. Each individual member of gynoecium is called pistil. Yeah, this is about male. Anther produces haploid pollen grains. Within anther, anther has two lobes. I will show you the picture. See, anther possesses two lobes. Each lobe contains two sacs. And anther has two lobes. See, this is lobe number 1. This is lobe number 2. Each lobe possesses two sacs, compartments. Totally, how many sacs are there? 2 plus 2, 4. So within these sacs, pollen grains are produced. When anthers are mature, it will rupture. Sacs will rupture and releases the pollen grain. So through the wind, through the insects, it may carry towards the stigma. Next, now let's discuss about female reproductive part in a flower. Each individual member of gynoecium is called pistil. Pistil consists of stigma, style, and ovary. The individual member of gynoecium is called pistil. This is pistil. So the pistil possesses three parts: stigma, style, and this is ovary. At the base, you can see ovary. Above the ovary, there is a style which connects ovary to the stigma. See, this is stalk or pedicel, and this is ovary. Ovary possesses, it forms a female gamete called ovule, and above the stalk you can see thalamus or receptacle, and this is the green color parts, non-essential part called sepal, and these are colored parts are called petals. Sepals are also called calyx. Petals are also called corolla, and this is male reproductive part. These are male reproductive parts called stamens, together called androecium, and this is female reproductive called pistil, together called gynoecium. Next, pollination. What is mean by pollination? I told you already. Insects as well as wind, even water are the agents which carry pollen grains towards the stigma. Right? So then what is mean by pollination? The process of transfer of pollen grain from the anthers to the stigma of a flower. The process of transfer of pollen grain from where? From the anthers to towards stigma is called pollination. So it is why it is required. It should be required for fertilization. When male and female gamete fused, then only fertilization takes place. So pollination required for fertilization. Next, pollination has two types. There are two types of pollination. One is self-pollination, another one is cross-pollination. Self-pollination is also called autogamy. Auto in the sense self, gamy in the sense fusion. Cross-pollination is also called allogamy. In self-pollination, as the name indicates, here the transfer of pollen grain takes place from the anthers to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant. So, if pollination occurs within a same plant or within a same flower or two different flowers of a same plant, then it is called self-pollination. What is meant by cross-pollination? When pollens are transferred from anthers to the stigma of another flower and another plant of a same species. Say for example, plant number 1. If plant number 1 may possess either single flower or many flowers. If pollination takes place within same flowers or within the same flowers of a same plant, within two different flowers of a same plant, then it is called self-pollination. Imagine there are two plants, plant number 1, plant number 2 of same species, or just imagine jasmine or rose. If pollination takes place from one plant to another plant, then it is called cross-pollination. Many pollinating agents play their roles in cross-pollination. Example, water, wind, insects, birds, bats. So, if pollination takes place through water, then it is called water pollination, wind pollination, and then wind pollination, insect pollination. Next, birds as well as bats as well. Next, fertilization. What is meant by fertilization? Fusion of male and female gamete. In flowering plants, after pollination, the pollens germinate on the stigma surface of pistil and generate two male nuclei. Yeah, I will show you. See, when pollen grain falls on stigma, it starts producing pollen tube. See, look at the second picture. It starts producing pollen tube. When it forms pollen tube, automatically it produces two gametes called sperms. How many gametes are there? Two. One fuses with egg cell, another fuses with polar nuclei to form endosperm. See, ovule has egg cell. I will show you what is ovule. See, there are 6 ovules here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might have seen so many seeds, more than 6 seeds or more than one seed in a fruit, right? So that is due to, it depends upon the number of ovules. So the number of ovules are equal to the number of, yes, zygotes. See, ovule has egg cell and two polar nuclei. One male nucleus fuses with two polar nuclei and forms triploid endosperm, which provides nourishment to the developing embryo. Another male nucleus fuses with the egg cell and forms zygote that gives rise to embryo and future plant. After fertilization, ovary becomes fruit, ovules turns into seeds, and all other parts wither off. I will explain you clearly. When pollen grain falls on stigma, then this process is also called pollination, right? After pollination, what will happen? Stigma secretes few sugar substances. With the help of that sugary substance, pollen grain, see here, this pollen grain, it start forming what? Pollen tube. It start germination. It germinates one pollen tube. This pollen tube reaches the ovule. At the base of the ovule, you see, at the base of the ovule it reaches. Can you see exactly at the center in an ovule you can see polar nuclei, and at the base you can see egg cell. Within ovule, there is a egg cell, polar nuclei, and other egg operators too, like synergates, antipodal cells, like that. But out of that, two are important. One is two polar nuclei exactly at the center, and at the base, egg cell. Here, when pollen tube forms, when pollen grain forms pollen tube or germinates pollen tube, it releases two male gametes called sperms. One male gamete, this one, fuses with polar nuclei. Another male gamete fuses with egg cell. So ovule possess both egg cell as well as polar nuclei. Here, polar nuclei, two polar nuclei are there, right? Two. So 2 plus 1 male gamete, 1 nucleus. Totally how many nucleus are there? 3. So that is why it is called, how can I say? Yeah, this is endosperm. What is its function? It is triploid nuclei and it is also called endosperm. Why it is called endosperm? What is meant by endosperm? What is its function? Endosperm provides nourishment to the developing embryo. Where is embryo? Here, egg cell is there at the base, right? This egg cell fuses with one more male gamete and produces zygote. This zygote will develop with the help of endosperm. Endosperm produces nourishment. It provides nourishment to the developing embryo. So now this embryo is called seed and this ovary becomes fruit. Now where are seeds? How many seeds are there? Yeah, here 6. So 6 seeds are present within a single fruit. Ovary becomes fruit, ovules become seeds, and other parts like calyx and corolla will wither off. This is about, yeah, fertilization. See, this is egg apparatus. I told you now, ovule structure. See, this is one of the ovule. Here, exactly at the center, you can see. Just a sec. I'll try to remove this. Yeah. See, here, this is ovule. See, this one. This one I am showing here. I have zoomed it. See, this is ovule. These are egg apparatus. Within ovule, you can see egg apparatus. This is egg. Besides that, you can see synergates exactly at the center, two polar nuclei, and opposite to that we have 3 antipodal cells. So here the required one is these two, egg and polar nuclei. With polar nuclei, one sperm nuclei fuses, and with egg cell another sperm nucleus fuses. This polar nuclei, another with sperm nuclei. When sperm nuclei fuses with egg cell, it forms a zygote. Zygote will develop mitotically. Mitotic division takes place here, and for its development, nutrients are provided by this triploid nuclei. What is this? It becomes endosperm. What about other parts of a flower? It becomes wither off. So here the ovules become seeds in future, and where ovules are present within ovary, right? So ovary becomes fruit and other parts of a flower wither off. So go through this video, children. If you have any doubts, ask me in live session. Thank you.